I've spent far more money than I care to confess on blossoms that appeared magnificent at the garden center, but had completely finished their display before summer truly found its rhythm. A fleeting fortnight of color, followed by nothing but verdant foliage until the first frost. If this scenario resonates with you, rest assured you are not isolated in your experience, nor are you making any errors. No one likely informed you about which perennial varieties actually offer bloom for 5, 6, or even 7 consecutive months. I've identified 10 such specimens, featuring genuine cultivar names, accurate hardiness zones, and proven performance. And the plant occupying the premier position on this list blooms from June all the way through November, reaching its zenith precisely when every other flower in your garden has already bowed out. Let's delve into the details. Plant number 10, Shasta Daisy. A great many individuals who have cultivated Shasta daisies have encountered disappointment. They offer a beautiful initial burst of white blooms in June, a week or two of striking visual appeal, after which they recede, leaving the garden quiet and the plant dedicated solely to producing leaves until frost. This common experience has unfortunately steered numerous American gardeners away from this plant altogether. And this is a genuine pity, because the issue has never been the plant itself, but rather the specific cultivar chosen. Compounding this is a crucial cultivation step that is conspicuously absent from the advice provided at the point of sale. The variety you absolutely must seek out is Becky, not a generic Shasta daisy, and certainly not whatever happens to be sitting in the nearest nursery tray. Becky, specifically. She possesses a remarkable tolerance to heat that most other Shasta daisy varieties simply lack. Her stems are robust enough to withstand summer thunderstorms without bending or flopping. Her individual flowers measure between 3 and 4 inches in diameter. When planted in full sun with well-draining soil, she offers continuous bloom from late May straight through September, a solid 5 months. After that initial flush of bloom concludes in mid-July, prune Becky back by half. This is the essential technique that goes unmentioned. This single pruning action, a mere 5 minutes with a pair of shears, effectively triggers a complete second wave of flowering that commences in August and extends through September, all the way until the autumn frost. If you neglect this pruning step, you will still achieve respectable bloom. However, by performing this cut, you unlock 5 months of spectacular flowering that will undoubtedly prompt envious inquiries from your neighbors year after year. Becky thrives in USDA hardiness zones 4 through 9. Space her 18 inches apart in full sun. Water her deeply once a week during her first growing season. Thereafter, she requires minimal attention. She gradually expands through underground runners, naturally filling any sparse areas, and after approximately 3 years, you can divide a single original plant into a dozen new specimens at no additional expense. Please leave a comment immediately and share whether you have ever grown Shasta daisies and been let down by their brief blooming period. Also, indicate the state in which you garden, as it's possible you were merely one pruning cut away from enjoying 5 months of continuous bloom all this time. Press that subscribe button right now, because the plants still to come on this list include one that flourishes in the most challenging soil conditions in your entire yard, outperforming anything you've ever planted in your most prized garden bed. This is vital information to have before your next excursion to the garden center. Plant number 9, purple coneflower. Purple coneflower stands as one of the most frequently planted perennials across America. Paradoxically, it is also one of the most commonly mismanaged. The majority of gardeners diligently deadhead their coneflowers, a practice dictated by virtually every gardening publication they have ever consulted. This singular habit, repeated with good intentions season after season, unfortunately deprives them of months of valuable wildlife support and natural garden beauty, entirely unbeknownst to them. The cultivar you should prioritize is Magnus. Its flowers, measuring 4 to 5 inches in diameter, are dramatically larger than those of the standard species. Deep purple petals arch gracefully downwards, surrounding a prominent, spiky orange central cone that stands upright, resembling a raised fist. It offers continuous bloom from June through October in most American gardens, providing a full 5 months of color across USDA hardiness zones 3 through 9. From the frigid winters experienced in Minnesota to the sweltering summer heat of Georgia and Texas, this plant consistently delivers. Herein lies the primary error made by most gardeners. Do not deadhead Magnus. Allow every single spent bloom to remain standing on the plant. These dried, cone-shaped seed heads transform into a crucial winter food source for goldfinches and other seed-eating birds, sustaining them from November through February. By removing them, you completely eliminate this vital benefit, gaining no significant extension of bloom in return. By leaving them in place, your garden actively supports wildlife throughout the coldest months of the year. Plant Magnus 18 to 24 inches apart in full sun. Water it weekly during its initial season only. Following this period, natural rainfall is typically sufficient for established plants in nearly every American growing zone. And here is the candid performance timeline that remains largely unacknowledged. Year 1 provides modest bloom. Year 3 yields genuinely impressive flowering. By year 5, you will have plants measuring 3 feet across, absolutely adorned with blossoms from June through October. Refrain from judging this plant based on its performance in its inaugural season. Grant it 3 years to fully demonstrate its remarkable capabilities. I wish to speak honestly to anyone watching who has been gardening for years, yet still feels their garden never quite lives up to the promises conveyed by nursery tags and seed catalogs. That feeling is valid, and it is not a reflection of any shortcomings on your part. Rather, it stems from the fact that the longest blooming and most reliably beautiful plants are seldom the ones most aggressively promoted at the point of sale. This channel is dedicated to bridging that very gap, focusing on one plant at a time, with authentic cultivar names and factual zone data tailored for American gardens. Subscribe without delay. Activate the notification bell, as the plants still to be presented on this list include one that thrives in the most challenging soil in your yard, performing better than any plant in your most fertile bed, and another that attracts hummingbirds so reliably you will observe them before you've even finished your morning coffee. Do not miss these. Plant number 8, catmint. Catmint is currently the most underappreciated perennial in American gardens. Most individuals bypass it at the nursery, perceiving it as entirely unremarkable in its modest container. Its foliage appears unassuming, with no dramatic features to capture attention, leading them to seek out plants with larger flowers and more impressive tag photography. This decision results in the loss of 6 months of seasonal color. The cultivar you require is Walker's Low. Despite its name, it reaches a height of 24 inches and a width of 36 inches when in full bloom, forming a substantial mound covered in lavender blue flower spikes from late April through October. It is suitable for USDA zones 4 through 8. In mid-July, prune Walker's low back by half. That is the extent of the task. One cut, a mere 5 minutes with pruning shears. New growth emerges within 2 weeks, followed by an entirely new flush of flowers that continues right up until the onset of hard frost. If you skip this pruning, the bloom will noticeably diminish in late summer. By performing this cut, you will enjoy 6 uninterrupted months of color, and the bees will visit so frequently that their buzzing can be heard from 20 feet away on a warm afternoon. Planted in full sun and well-draining soil, catmint cannot tolerate waterlogged conditions, so proper drainage is essential. Space plants 24 to 30 inches apart to allow them ample room for full development. Water weekly during their first season. Once established, their drought tolerance is exceptional. Plants that have received nothing beyond natural rainfall for 4 or 5 years will continue to bloom beautifully and consistently each season. Here's an additional benefit worth noting. Plant Walker's Low in proximity to your roses. Its aromatic foliage naturally deters aphids, effectively addressing 2 horticultural challenges with a single plant. Full sun, average soil, 1 annual pruning, resulting in 6 months of pollinator-attracting bloom from late April through October. There is no more straightforward route to achieving this outcome in American perennial gardening. Subscribe to this channel immediately. Activate the notification bell, as the plants still on this list include one that excels in your poorest soil, outperforming its growth in your best garden bed, and another that attracts hummingbirds so consistently you will observe them before you've finished your morning coffee. Do not overlook these. Plant number 7. Blanket flower. Every yard in America possesses that specific location. You know precisely the spot I'm referring to. Overly hot, excessively dry, with soil that is more akin to clay and gravel than anything a plant would voluntarily choose. Full afternoon sun that scorches anything you attempt to grow there. You have introduced various plants to this challenging spot. You have observed their struggles. You have witnessed their failures. Eventually, you have abandoned the effort, resigning yourself to the notion that some ground is simply uncooperative. Blanket flower was specifically, precisely, and entirely designed for such a location. The cultivar you require is Arizona Sun. It exhibits compact growth, reaching 10 to 12 inches in height, with striking red flowers tipped in bright yellow, resembling miniature sunsets. It is ideal for the edge of your driveway or baking along your south-facing fence line. It blooms continuously from June until the first hard frost without any interruption, offering 5 full months of color in most American gardens from precisely the area that has historically yielded only frustration. It is suitable for USDA zones 3 through 10. Read that number again, zone 3 through zone 10. This encompasses nearly the entirety of the continental United States, from the coldest regions of the northern plains to the intense heat of the deep south and the desert southwest. There are virtually no American gardeners watching this right now who are unable to cultivate Arizona Sun blanket flower in their locale. Do not fertilize blanket flower. Do not amend the soil with compost prior to planting. Do not attempt to improve its growing conditions. Rich soil will encourage lush, beautiful foliage, but will result in very few flowers. Conversely, poor, lean soil or gravelly clay, the kind of ground you would never voluntarily plant anything of value in, is precisely where blanket flower exhibits its most prolific blooming. The poorer the soil, the more impressive the display. This plant originated on the North American prairies. It was engineered for conditions that most garden plants simply cannot endure. Plant Arizona Sun 12 to 15 inches apart in full sun. Water it weekly during its first summer to establish its root system. Thereafter, leave it completely undisturbed, except during periods of severe and prolonged drought. Deer and rabbits consistently avoid it. In gardens subjected to significant wildlife pressure, where other plants are regularly browsed, blanket flower remains untouched and in full bloom throughout the entire season. How many plants have you acquired over the years based on a nursery tag's promise, only to have the plant fall far short of expectations? A photograph of spectacular bloom on a tag attached to something that provided a mere 2 weeks of color, and then nothing. If this number exceeds what you are comfortable admitting, you are watching the correct channel. Subscribe immediately. This essential information should have accompanied every plant tag you have ever purchased. It is now available here, every single week. Do not miss out. Plant number 6, hardy salvia. There's a singular moment that occurs with hardy salvia that, once experienced, is never forgotten. You step outside in the early morning of a summer day, coffee in hand. The garden is serene, and a hummingbird is already diligently working the salvia blossoms, flitting from spike to spike with focused, purposeful energy. All before the day has truly begun. This phenomenon occurs from May through October, with the appropriate cultivar planted in the optimal location. The variety you should seek is May Night. It features deep indigo-purple flower spikes that rise 18 inches above aromatic foliage, which deer and rabbits find completely unappealing. It forms a neat, well-behaved clump, 24 inches wide, integrating seamlessly into almost any garden setting without overwhelming its neighboring plants. It is suitable for USDA zones 4 through 8, offering reliable performance across the majority of American growing regions, including the humid Southeast, the arid Mountain West, the Midwest, and the Northeast. This is not a plant that necessitates perfect conditions. It adapts readily. Following the initial flush of flower spikes in late June, trim those spent spikes back to the top of the foliage. This is a single, light pruning task, requiring approximately 10 minutes of effort. Within weeks, an entirely new set of flower spikes will emerge, and bloom will continue uninterrupted from August straight through October. If you forgo this trim, late summer bloom will significantly diminish. By performing this trim, you secure 6 months of continuous color and consistent hummingbird activity from a single planting. Plant May Night 18 inches apart in full sun to partial shade. It is not particular about soil, provided drainage is adequate. Water it weekly during its first season. Once established, natural rainfall is sufficient in most American zones during years with normal precipitation levels. Have you ever observed a hummingbird actively feeding from a flower in your own garden? Not at a feeder, but from an actual plant you cultivated yourself. There is a distinct difference between providing hummingbirds with sugar water and growing the plants for which they were evolutionarily designed. If you have yet to experience this, planting May Night salvia this season will permanently alter that. Respond with a simple __quote, _0 _ quote _1 _ in the comment section right now. Have you ever had hummingbirds visit your garden plants? I review every single response, and your answer may influence the topics covered in upcoming videos. Plant number 5, Coreopsis. Coreopsis is one of America's most undervalued native perennials. It is also one of the most consistently mishandled. The majority of gardeners who have attempted it and experienced disappointment have made the identical error. They have treated it too well. They planted it in rich garden soil, fertilized it, and watered it consistently. The result was lush, beautiful, dark green foliage, accompanied by sparse, unimpressive bloom that never lived up to the tag's promise. The varieties you should select are Moonbeam for its soft, pale yellow flowers and Zagreb for its bright golden yellow hue. Both are threadleaf varieties. Both bloom from June through October without the necessity of any deadheading. This provides 5 months of continuous color from plants that form neat, compact mounds, 12 to 18 inches tall. They are suitable for USDA zones 4 through 9. As native North American wildflowers, they are adapted to the full spectrum of continental American growing conditions. They tolerate heat, humidity, drought, and complete neglect with equal indifference because they evolved in these environments. They do not require your assistance to perform. Rather, they require you to cease providing conditions that work against their inherent tendencies. Individual Coreopsis flowers measure approximately 1 inch in diameter. While small, they are produced in such extraordinary abundance that the entire surface of the plant is simultaneously covered at peak bloom, with hundreds of flowers on a single plant at any given moment. The fading of individual blossoms has no discernible impact on the overall display, as there are simply too many blooming simultaneously to notice. After approximately 5 or 6 years, Coreopsis clumps may begin to decline in the center. When this occurs, excavate them in early spring, divide them, discard the dead central portion, and replant the healthy outer growth. This process completely rejuvenates the plant. And the divisions provide you with free specimens to expand your planting without incurring any expense. Plant either Moonbeam or Zagreb 15 to 18 inches apart in full sun. You are now 5 plants into this compilation. If you have observed a consistent theme emerging across every plant discussed thus far, less fertilizer, less deadheading, less watering, less intervention leading to superior results compared to more of everything, this pattern is not coincidental. It represents the outcome of matching the appropriate plant to the correct conditions and then entrusting it to perform. This is the guiding philosophy behind every video presented on this channel. Practical, specific advice tailored for authentic American gardens across actual American zones. If this aligns with the standard you expect from gardening content, subscribe immediately. The 5 remaining plants on this list include one that blooms for 7 consecutive months, exceeding the duration of any plant discussed so far, and another that transforms the hottest, driest corner of your yard into a 4-month spectacle of silver and purple blooms that pollinators find irresistible. Remain with me. Plant number 4, hardy verbena, 7 months. This is the duration that captivates most gardeners when they first encounter it applied to a single perennial. Not 4 months, not 5 months, but 7 consecutive months of active bloom from a plant that demands virtually nothing in return. Most individuals bypass hardy verbena at the nursery, perceiving it as delicate and unimpressive in its small container. This initial impression is profoundly misleading and results in those gardeners forfeiting 7 months of seasonal color. Each year they continue to overlook it. The cultivar you should acquire is Homestead Purple. It produces deep, rich purple flower clusters on trailing stems that reach a modest height of only 6 to 8 inches, but spread an impressive 24 to 36 inches wide across your soil surface. It blooms from May through November in most American gardens, enduring the intense heat of June, July, and August, when many established perennials pause or reduce their flowering significantly, continuing through September and October as most gardens begin to wind down, and persisting all the way into November when virtually everything else has long since finished. It is suitable for USDA zones 6 through 9 as a reliably returning perennial. Herein lies the common misuse of this plant by many gardeners. They plant it in a formal garden bed and then spend the season attempting to control its natural spreading habit, striving to keep it contained and tidy. This approach directly opposes the plant's inherent design and purpose. The correct application for Homestead Purple is as a ground cover. Plant it between stepping stones in a garden pathway. Allow it to cascade along the base of a slope. Utilize it to blanket bare soil between larger perennials where persistent weed issues have been a seasonal frustration. The trailing stems readily root wherever they come into contact with the soil, forming a dense, spreading carpet of deep purple bloom that effectively suppresses weeds, covers bare ground, and provides a remarkable 7 months of continuous color. Plant Homestead Purple 18 to 24 inches apart in full sun and well-draining soil. Water it weekly during its first season. Following this, its drought tolerance is exceptionally strong and consistent. On warm, sunny afternoons during summer and fall, 5 or more species of butterflies can be observed feeding on a single plant simultaneously. Because Homestead Purple blooms so late into November, it provides crucial nectar at a time when most other floral sources have already concluded their displays. This is particularly valuable for late migrating butterflies making their journey southward. Plant number 3, Reblooming Daylilies. Standard daylilies have unfortunately bestowed an unfair reputation upon this entire plant genus within American gardens. They offer 3 weeks of bloom in July, followed by 8 months of foliage, and nothing more. Millions of American gardeners have cultivated these old-fashioned single-bloom varieties, felt let down by the experience, and quietly dismissed the entire genus as overplanted and unremarkable. This conclusion, while understandable, was based on the wrong plants. Reblooming daylilies offer a categorically different growing experience, and the distinction begins at the point of purchase with 2 critical words on the plant tag. Before you buy, confirm that the tag specifically indicates reblooming or repeat blooming. If these words are absent from the tag, do not purchase the plant, regardless of how appealing the flower photograph may be. The varieties you should seek are Stella de Oro for its compact golden yellow bloom and Happy Returns for its pale lemon yellow hue and exceptional reblooming frequency. Both varieties bloom from June through September, with occasional flowers extending into October, providing 4 solid months of active bloom, interspersed with brief natural resting periods between successive flushes. They are suitable for USDA zones 3 through 9. The growing conditions that would overwhelm most perennials leave reblooming daylilies entirely unfazed. Clay soil, sandy soil, temporary inundation after heavy rainfall, extended periods of drought between rain events, full sun, and 4 to 6 hours of partial shade. They adapt to all of these circumstances without visible stress and without a significant reduction in bloom output. As each flowerscape concludes, after the final bud on that stem has opened and faded, remove the entire scape at its base. This action redirects energy that would otherwise be allocated to seed production directly into developing new flowering stems. The result is a measurably greater volume of bloom across the full 4-month season, compared to plants where spent scapes are left standing. After approximately 8 years, daylily clumps can become overcrowded, and bloom naturally begins to decline. In early spring, excavate them, divide the clump into sections, each containing 3 to 5 fans, and replant them. Bloom will return to full intensity the following season, and you will have free divisions to expand your planting or share with other gardeners. I have a straightforward question for everyone tuning in today. I'd truly appreciate it if you could share your thoughts in the comments section. Did you grow up with the understanding that classic lilies typically graced your garden for about 3 weeks in July? And did you perhaps quietly accept that this represented the pinnacle of their floral display? If your answer is yes, and I have a strong suspicion many of you will relate to this, it's quite possible you've spent years overlooking reblooming varieties at garden centers, completely unaware they represent a distinct and separate category of plants. Please drop a yes or no right now, and also tell me which state you're in. The collective responses to this question could significantly influence whether I create a comprehensive video specifically dedicated to reblooming lily varieties tailored for various American growing zones. This channel is dedicated to addressing precisely these kinds of gardening challenges by providing detailed information, exact variety recommendations, and dependable zone data that you can actually implement. If this level of specific guidance is what you've been searching for in gardening content, I encourage you to subscribe immediately. Please share this video with at least one person in your life who enjoys gardening, as this knowledge is invaluable for every American gardener who has ever felt let down by a plant that didn't quite live up to its promises. Let's talk about plant number 2, Russian sage. Many plants that can withstand genuinely challenging environmental conditions tend to do so by merely surviving, rather than thriving and putting on a spectacular show. They manage to stay alive, produce a modest and unremarkable bloom, and occupy space without leaving a lasting impression in the garden. Russian sage, however, operates in the opposite fashion. Subject it to the most extreme conditions your yard can offer: intense full sun, parched dryness, and scorching heat, and it will respond with an astonishing 4 months of vibrant lavender blue flower clouds. These blooms are held aloft by attractive silvery gray aromatic foliage that sways gracefully in the summer breeze. Your choice of variety will largely depend on the space you have available. The Little Spire cultivar remains compact, reaching about 24 inches in both height and width, making it suitable for smaller garden beds and more confined spaces. The classic Russian sage, on the other hand, can grow to be 3 to 4 feet tall and equally wide, creating a substantial and dramatic presence that is sure to capture the attention of visitors from July through October. It performs optimally in USDA zones 5 through 9, particularly in the hot summer regions of the continental United States, where consistent full sun exposure and limited natural rainfall are regular seasonal occurrences. The more heat and sunlight it receives, the more abundant and impressive its blooms will be. This is not a plant that falters under adverse conditions. It's practically engineered for them. Full sun is an absolute necessity. It requires well-drained soil, as Russian sage will invariably rot in persistently wet conditions without exception. Beyond these 2 fundamental requirements, refrain from fertilizing it, avoid amending the soil, and cease watering it once it has been established in the ground for a full growing season. Plants that have received absolutely no supplemental irrigation beyond natural rainfall for 7 or more years consistently produce magnificent blooms every single summer. Deer and rabbits consistently avoid Russian sage across all American growing regions, where both the plant and these wildlife populations coexist. The aromatic oils present in its foliage, which deter deer, also discourage a multitude of common garden pests. In the 13 or more years that well-established Russian sage plantings have been documented in American gardens, pest and disease issues have been virtually non-existent. That neglected spot in your yard, the one where nothing else seems inclined to grow and bloom simultaneously, full sun, dry soil, relentless summer heat, that exact spot has a plant specifically designed to thrive there. And it delivers 4 months of continuous bloom, while everything else struggles merely to survive. Now let's discuss plant number 1, Rudbeckia, commonly known as black-eyed Susan. Every gardener is familiar with the black-eyed Susan. It's one of the most instantly recognizable flowering perennials in America. It's planted in millions of gardens across every growing zone in the continental United States. However, the majority of these gardeners are cultivating the incorrect variety and consequently experiencing only a fraction of the plant's true potential over a full season. The standard species typically blooms for approximately 4 to 6 weeks. The right variety, however, can produce blooms for 6 full months. And here's the remarkable detail that elevates plant number 1 on this entire list to truly extraordinary status. The peak of that 6-month bloom period occurs in September and October, not in June or July. This is precisely when your neighbors' gardens are beginning to look tired and wind down. It's when most perennial borders are displaying little more than foliage and a few weary stragglers. It's when the gardening season feels as though it has essentially concluded. That is precisely when Rudbeckia Goldstorm is at its absolute finest. The varieties you should be looking for are Goldstorm, for its classic performance benchmark, featuring deep gold petals surrounding a prominent dark brown center, growing to about 24 to 30 inches tall with sturdy, self-supporting stems. For something distinctly different, consider Henry Eilers, which boasts quilled, rolled petals that create a unique texture unmatched by any other fall-blooming perennial. Both of these varieties rebloom reliably and reach their genuine peak performance in September and October, precisely when you need them the most. They are suitable for USDA zones 3 through 9, are native to North America, and have adapted remarkably well across the entire spectrum of continental American growing conditions, from the frigid Minnesota winters to the persistent heat of Alabama summers, without requiring any zone-specific management adjustments. Do not fertilize it. Do not amend the soil with rich compost before planting. Avoid planting it in your most fertile, heavily improved garden beds. Excessively rich soil tends to produce tall, lanky plants that require staking and offer only moderate bloom. Average soil, ordinary soil, or even slightly lean soil will result in compact, completely self-supporting plants with dramatically more prolific blooms extending from June right through November. This plant is a prairie native. It was developed for ordinary American ground. Plant Goldstorm or Henry Eilers, 18 to 24 inches apart in full sun. Water them weekly during their first season. After they become established, natural rainfall is sufficient in virtually every American growing zone during years with normal precipitation. Allow the seed heads to remain standing throughout the fall and winter. Goldfinches, chickadees, and native sparrows consistently harvest them from November through February. The dried stems provide an attractive architectural element and a sense of quiet movement in the winter wind, long after the last flower has faded. Your garden continues to earn its place and provide value. Here is my concluding question. And I sincerely hope every single person watching will respond to it right now in the comments. How does your garden truly look in September and October? Is it still vibrant with color and alive with activity? Or has it largely wound down and fallen silent by Labor Day? Because if your honest assessment is that it appears tired and finished before fall has even truly begun, planting Rudbeckia Goldstorm this season will permanently alter that answer. Please drop your state in the comments below and tell me what your fall garden currently looks like. I personally read every single response, and if a significant number of you are located in the same region, your comment today could directly influence the exact type of dedicated, zone-specific video I produce next. I'm presenting 10 perennials, all of which are capable of blooming for 4, 5, 6, or even 7 months in American gardens across USDA zones 3 through 10. Consider the Shasta Daisy, offering 5 months of bloom from late May through September, with a mid-July cutback that most gardeners are unaware of. The Magnus purple coneflower provides 5 months of continuous flowering and an entire winter's worth of value for wildlife from its seed heads, which most gardeners unfortunately remove without realizing their importance. Walker's Low Catmint produces 6 months of lavender blue blooms, attracting bees so actively that you can hear their buzzing from across the yard. Arizona Sun Blanket Flower performs best in the most challenging soil conditions your property has to offer, thriving across zones 3 through 10. May Night. Salvia will bring hummingbirds to your garden every morning from May through October, offering 6 months of deep purple blossoms. Moonbeam and Zagreb Coreopsis provide 5 months of golden yellow flowers with absolutely no need for pampering in ordinary American soil. Homestead Purple Verbena spreads across the ground and feeds butterflies for 7 consecutive months, enduring every weather extreme that summer delivers. The reblooming Stella de Oro and Happy Returns daylilies handle every soil and climate condition America presents across zones 3 through 9. Russian sage has the remarkable ability to transform your most challenging hot and dry spot into a 4-month display of silver and purple blooms, requiring virtually nothing from you after its initial establishment season. And Rudbeckia Goldstorm can sustain your entire garden from June straight through November, with its peak performance occurring in September and October when everything else has already finished. Select 2 plants from this list. Order the specific variety names I've provided here, not generic versions of these species. Plant them this season and provide them with the basic care recommended for their first year. Then, simply step back, because these plants do not require your constant management to perform. They simply need to be planted correctly and then allowed to do what they were inherently designed to do. If this video has provided you with even one plant name you hadn't previously considered, one specific varietal detail that will change your choices at the garden center, or one piece of zone-specific information that finally makes sense for your particular yard and growing conditions, then this channel has accomplished exactly what it set out to do. And there is more valuable content like this arriving every single week. You'll find specific variety names that genuinely perform, authentic zone data you can act on immediately, and the single crucial management detail per plant that makes the difference between 2 weeks of color and 5 months of continuous bloom. Subscribe right now. Activate that notification bell so you never miss an upcoming video. And please leave a comment below, letting me know which state you garden in and which plant from this list you plan to add to your yard first. I read every single comment. Your state and your response are genuinely important here, because this channel is created for American gardeners who are tired of being misled by beautiful photographs on plant tags that never deliver the results they promise. You deserve better, more accurate information than that. Now, you have it.